Howdy, folks. Welcome back to JJ's Library and Readings. Today, I'm feeling pretty good. Um, Ready to read this book? I don't know. Pretty slow day today, but I hope y'all are well. Sorry for the poor intro. I'm again saying this because I'm planning it for next week. Please let me know what you think of next Friday, of being a video game day. I think that'd be really cool. Little break from the book. Keep our minds fresh. And yeah. But, anyways, I hope you're on your couch or your bed or somewhere comfortable so that you can sip your warm or cold coffee and smoke your cob. I think we're ready to get into it. So, we're back again with Between Two Fires. We're on chapter 7 of the Battle of Song of Angels. In the morning, the girl told the priest that three of them were going to the shrine of the Virgin of the White Rock, 10 miles north. She was granting miracles soon, and she would rid Thomas of the plague. But, child, the priest said, this man can't travel. And the bishop heard rumors of this shrine many years ago, and visited it and declared that while it was a holy place and Christians should pray there, they should expect no miracles. A saint had told her. She bit her lip, wondering if she should let him know one spoke to her. It seemed better to keep that secret. A higher power than the bishop says the shrine is healing people, and we can take the night upon a cart. If I had a cart. Go to the almond orchard and pray. God will show you a way. No, the priest said forcefully. We must stay here. If God wants our friend to live, we will bestow that grace upon him wherever he is. Her insides fluttered as though a small bird were near her heart. Words came to her. She closed her eyes and said them. Matthew Hennessett, she said, calling the priest by his true name, which he had never told her. You say these words because you fear to leave your little home, but I turn your words upon you. If death means to take you, he may do it here as easily as it is on the road. He is already in the house. A chill passed through the priest, and he said meekly, watch over a friend. I am going to the orchard. The dead man's cart was in good repair, and the three of them were soon upon the road to Roche-le-Blanche, a hill village where granite was quarried. The priest drove the fine cart, while Thomas lay feverish in the back of it. The girl held a cross over him with one hand, and lay her other hand upon his burning chest. The priest was certain she was a saint. He had no other way to explain his discovery in the orchard. The cart's owner had broken his neck trying to stand on the wheel of the cart and beat the last almonds from a high branch. The almond farmer's body was still warm when the priest found him, his mule content to nibble grass until it looked up at the priest's approach. Something about the beast's graze got a chill through Matthew Hanichode, as if he knew and expected him, and for a moment he had wondered if this girl was diabolic in nature. He thought not. Then he had a moment to wonder whether God had slain this man to provide them a cart, or if he had merely directed Matthew to the scene of the sad event, already foreordained. What was the difference? Everything served God's will, and here, at last, after months of senseless deaths and unending tears, was a tragedy that bore some fruit. The priest had blessed the man, then cried and thanked God for at least revealing his face to him. For all those thanks, however, the mule was stubborn and it had taken the priest nearly half an hour to get it moving. But now the mule was happy to pull. As they got closer, they passed others bearing the sick and dying to Rachel La Blanche. It was midday when they saw the town. In the mob that was sitting there, nearly 30 peasants, mostly men, were marching on the town, several of them pulling an empty cart by hand. They were all armed, and they noticed the priest's cart coming up behind them. They turned. A mule! One shouted. Get the mule, said a woman with a too prolonged wooden pitchfork. It's a priest, another said. Fuck him, we have a priest too, and we need that mule, said a man in gaudy yellow stockings. Pierre Pure Matthew felt a shock of ice in his heart, and he nearly froze with fear. The night could have made the mob think twice, but he was dying. Then an idea came to Matthew, and he leapt to his feet, standing tall in the cart, and though his knees shook, he kept his voice firm. He who wants the plague, come and take this mule, for the plague is upon this man you see here. He who wants his soul in hell, come and take the mule unlawfully from one of God's priests and stop us on our pilgrimage. This halted their frightening surge towards the cart. Now the woman with the wooden fork said, Come with us, father. Help us take the virgin back. What? Said Pere Matthew. He now noticed a stocky, cow-eyed priest among the farmers. The other cleric was holding a petiwer candlestick with a club, and he seemed abashed to have encountered another of his sorts. He shook this off and spoke. Yes, brother, we're taking our virgin back. She was stolen from our village, Chanson d'Anges, by those bastards of Roca le Blanque during the great hunger of 17. Since then, God has smiled upon them and pissed upon us for not defending her. Help us in our rightful suit. Shame on you, brother, Pere Matthew said. The goods stood now, wide open, and said, You've got devils with you, right now, with you. In your hearts, Pere Matthew said quickly, suddenly scared this mom might decide she was a witch. For the devil is in any heart that moves a man to hurt their neighbor. Yet will he leave you in peace if you will put your weapons down and turn from your sin. This is your last chance. You're not from here, the club-wielding priest said viciously and suddenly, as if the words weren't his, and began towards the cart. The girl's gaze stopped him. I see it, she said quietly. I know that what's at your elbow. It was the cutting of a Aranetti. The stocky priest began to cry then, blubbering incoherently. The woman with the fork came now and grabbed him by the shoulder. To hell with them, he said. Let's get our lady back. Chanson d'Anges, she said. The crowd echoed her cry, and they lurched towards the village, pulling the weeping priest with them. Even though it took place at Roche-le-Blanche, the battle would henceforth be known as the Battle of Chanson d'Anges, because the attackers shouted that again and again. They shouted that as they waded into and pushed aside the crowd of sick and penitent pilgrims that surrounded the statue. They shouted it as they broke the arm of the priest of Roche-le-Blanche, who threw himself in front of his blessed lady to defend her. They shouted it as they broke the pretty white stone statue from its nook in the right walk beside the church, leaving a piece of her foot. They shouted it at the group of men who began to form in the market square nearby, now 6, now a dozen, shouting and pointing, summoning others. Then one in the Chanson mob said, Do not let them gather. Nobody was sure who said it, because only the girl could see the foul thing that spoke those words. Did you hear me rip my page? That's crazy. Anyways, a stone flew, then a brick, somebody shot an arrow. Then the invading mob rushed at the outnumbered men in the square, and a horrible melee began. The Roche townsmen scattered, but more were coming. The Virgin must have been working true miracles here. More healthy men were gathering than the priest or the girl had seen in one place since the sickness first came. Now a hunchback in a blacksmith's apron ran towards the Rochelle men, dragging a box from which they began to pull swords, axes, and hammers. Defend the lady, someone said, and the Chanson d'Angelis mob fell back towards their cart, where the Virgin of the White Rock lay awkwardly on her side and formed a ring about it. The men of Rochelle surrounded them. They were reluctant to start killing, but then someone in the square held up the body of a little blond boy whose head had been busted by a rick. Perrin, one screamed. They killed little Perrin. The 20 or so defending the cart screamed deafeningly, Chanson d'Anges, Chanson d'Anges, as if daring the 30 well-armed farmers, tradesmen, and granite workers to slaughter them. They took the dare. The two groups bulged one, stabbed, cut, and gouged each other while dust flew and screams rang out. When at last the people of Chanson were nearly overcome, the woman with the fork dropped it and picked up a fallen hammer, jumping up into the cart with the Virgin. If you If we won't have her, you won't either. Fuck her. And she smashed the virgin's arm from her body. Back in Perry's cart, the girl screamed. The fighting stopped and everyone watched, stunned. Fuck her, fuck her, the woman screamed wide-eyed. The hammer fell again. On the virgin's nose was busted. Two more strokes, and the statue, once so beautiful that men wept to see her, was nothing but rocks. White dust covered the Chanson's woman's face. Something laughed, but only the girl said what? Death! Screamed a Rachel man, and Death answered his summons. None of the Chanson de Anges was left alive. The last one, the cow-eyed priest, was killed with the same brick that killed the little boy. Afterward, the survivors took the wounded off, and the people of Roche-le-Blanche cleared as far away from the killing field as they could. The girl tore herself away from Pero Matthew and walked through the twisted bodies towards the ruin of the Virgin of the White Rock. She was shaking and weeping, looking far smaller and younger than she had. She bent near the cart and picked up the statue's arm, hugging it to her. The priest helped her up into his cart, where the large soldier lay very still, breathing his last. Thomas had the impression that something with a cold, fishy mouth was tugging at him. His bladder loosened and he breathed out. His chest rattling, he did not inhale. The girl took the Virgin's hand in form and pressed the two stone fingers held up in benediction against the knight's forehead, just where he had felt Saint Sebastian's thumb right before. She pressed hard. The thing with the fishy mouth left. Thomas gasped and opened his eyes, and then he slept. Thomas woke up and thought something horribly was wrong. A dream in which his mother wove at her loom and sang Chanson de Tolle about a common woman who loved a great seigneur dissolved. Now an angel was rubbing his head with a cool cloth. He had died, he was sure of that, but under no circumstance should he be in heaven. He turned his eyes to look at the angel and saw that it was only the girl. Her very great eyes were on him, waiting to see if he would speak. I died, he said. Almost. You saved me? God did, with the hand of the Virgin. It was her last miracle. Thomas coughed, but less horribly than he had before the end. I stink, he said. The priest who was near the hearth said, Not like you did. What's stinking now is just the bed straw. Some of your sickness went into it, I think. One thing you never get used to is the way the sick ones smell. As if we needed any further proof, this curse fell from heaven to show us how corrupt we are. He went back to stirring the pot on the fire. What's there to eat? Thomas said. Oh, he has an appetite. There's a hopeful sign. Of course, having received the last rites and lived, you're supposed to fast perpetually now and go barefoot and remain chaste. Thomas grunted. But I won't tell anyone if you won't. What's to eat? He says. Nothing but the worst soup in Christendom. Grasses, flowers, twigs, and fungus from the side of trees, a blighted radish, and the best of all, 4 baby birds I broke free from their eggs. I was hoping just to get the oaks and whites, but the chicks were nearly ready to enter the sad world. Now they're in the soup. You'll have to eat one, bones and all. I've had worse. Well, I haven't. I'm just a soft priest in a cozy village, or was. At least there's a little salt. I spared a pinch of salt so we could choke the rest down. The girl changed the water in Thomas's cloth and rubbed his temples again. It was so cool and so good. He closed his eyes and breathed a long, contented sigh. This was the best he had felt since something awful happened. What? Something in that river. What I can't stop thinking about, the priest went on, is wine. I never thought it would just run out. I thought men would always make wine, as bees make honey and cows make milk. That I would one day find nobody, not one person with a skin or cask or pitcher of wine to sell, had never occurred to me. I will pray for you, Pere Matthews, she said, that I will find good wine, that God will fill you so full of his love that you will not need wine. That's a fine prayer, girl, but if it's no trouble, ask the world to send a little wine along with his love. I promise to be grateful for both. Thomas got better slowly, but more quickly than any of those few the priest had survived the plague. He took walks in the priest's yard, slurped bad soup, cracked the few stray almonds left in the cart, and savored the last of the girl's honey. By the end of August, she was asking if he felt well enough to travel. Let me guess, Paris with then Avignon? Yes. For mysterious reasons that will come to you later? Yes. It must have to be. It must have to do with the Pope. I don't know. Because the Pope lives there. And you lived in Picardy. Was everyone who came to Picardy coming to see you? Hey, priest, is this little girl a witch or a saint? A saint, I think, Prior Matthew said. But you're not sure? No, actually, I'm not. Would you like to go to Paris with us? No. So you will stay here then? No. Which is it? I'll go to Paris. You asked me if I would like to go to Paris. I would not. But I'm out of food, wine, and parishioners. So, like it or not, I have to leave my pleasant little house. If she's a saint, this is a holy pilgrimage. If she's a witch, I might try to mitigate her wickedness. They left on the first day of September. On the 3rd of September, against the wishes of his wife, the Seigneur of St. Martin le Puix at last gave to the yapping of his herald and seneschal, who claimed the priest was harboring a coarse man who had insulted the Lord's honor and broken his bell, as well as having provoked the foulness in the river to kill numerous peasants, on one of whom it seemed to have only choked and burst itself. The Lord reluctantly sent the last 3 men at arms down to search the priest's house, but they found that the priest had left. Knowing the priest's brother to be a servant in the house of His Holiness in Avignon, the men searched the house of treasures Prior Matthew might have left behind. One of them poked into the dirt of the yard with his polearm. One went through his trunk, his pot, and his few tools. The other turned up the straw of bed. The next day, this man had a fever. 4 days later, everyone in the castle was dead. The new seneschal was last, crying at his own image in a polished piece of brass, trying with a shaking hand to paint fine eyebrows on the ruin he had become. And that's it of chapter 7. Yes, of chapter 7. I hope you all enjoyed that very much. Another good little short episode, but I think it was pretty enjoyable. Sorry if you hear that sound in the microphone, it's me rubbing my hands together. I think I'm still a little nervous about doing these videos, but I enjoyed it a lot, and I appreciate y'all time to give to me and listen to me read. So I hope you all have, a good time, and good morning, good evening, and good night. I'll see y'all tomorrow like always.